Alright, we're going to continue on with this character, and now we're going to tackle something like the legs here. So, kind of in a similar fashion to what we did with the piece right here for this armor for the chest, we're going to just start off with a polycube, and we're going to see what we can do to kind of turn that into some pants using some simple geometry, and then we're going to use the smooth mesh preview and convert that into some geo. So you saw how much time and effort it took to kind of make this top piece, making it, you know, kind of piece by piece and then building it out. We're going to see if we can get something a little bit quicker for the pants. So let's go ahead and say create Polygon Primitives, and we're going to use a cube. I'm going to use the option box for this. Let me go ahead and pull this over to this monitor so we can see this. I accidentally tore that off. Close that up. And we've got our settings that we have been using for 20 by 20 by 20, and then a division of 2, 2, and 2 for width, height, and depth. So let's go ahead and hit apply like that, and we're going to push this thing with the move tool right here. We're going to push this up into the correct area. I'm going to go to the side view so we can see this a little bit, and we might build the angle that you see here for the belt just by putting on the rotate tool, and we'll move that into place. Just tap W using the rotate tool using E, getting that roughly into place. Now we'll scale with R, or use this tool here, and we'll pull this thing roughly about here. Go to the front view. Don't need to see the grid, so I'm going to turn that thing off, and we got something like this. So let's see what we got here. I think I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to extrude these faces out right here like this. Shift right click, say extrude face, and I'm just going to push this thing over to roughly where it needs to go. And then we need something that will be like legs. So I'm going to take these edges, hit F10 and select these, tap W for my move tool, and then just push this over a little bit like this. And you can see how we're going to start building some kind of shape for some legs. So tap F11 for my faces, or remember, you can always right click over this and say face. You can select things that way. So let's shift right click, extrude face, and we'll extrude this thing down like this. Okay, so this is the shape that we got. If we tap 3, we can see what's going on with this thing. We don't need this half of it. We're only going to build half of the model. We don't need the top part like that, so we can delete that and get rid of that. And we don't need the bottoms of what would be our legs. So we've got some kind of shape like that, right? And now we can take F10, we can take these edges and just move them. And if we wanted to move an object space, if we double click that, let me bring the option window over for you so you can see that. Right now we're moving in world space, but if we use object, see how that shifted just slightly, and that's because of that angle that we built up with rotating the object. So now we can push this thing here, kind of like that. We can double click this edge and make the loop, and we can pull that forward a little bit on this here. And what we're going to do is just kind of use these edges and try to match up a little bit better the shape of what we got going on for the belt. So we can move these things and just have them intersect with the belt itself just a little bit. We're not going to go too crazy with that, but we'll just push it up a little bit. And you see this green plane? I want to move it in just these two planes along here like this. I don't want to push it up right now. So if I use that little plane, I can push that, and now if I want to push it up, I can do that. So it's just kind of using this manipulator and using it to my advantage to get the right kind of shape that we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and push this up here like that. Same for this here. And then now we can start to evaluate this a little bit better. If we go to the front and take a look, yeah, I've made this thing really large. Now we are getting into this interesting situation where we've got the front drawing and things look like they're starting to get out of proportion quite a bit. So we've got this area looks pretty good. This is the bottom of the belt. Our belt is pretty thick based off the front drawing. But if we go to here, the side drawing, we've got this thickness. So what are we going to choose? What are we going to use as our guide here? I do think we probably want to pay more attention to the front view than the side in this case. So things are matching up okay right in through here in this area. So we could move this, and we've got that angle of the belt because I still have rotation. I haven't done anything with this thing yet. So if we click on it, you see we've got this rotation information, and that'll help us whenever we go to move that. So I'm going to hit undo to get back to the selection that I had of my verts. And remember, if I double click on that, we're in object movement mode right now. So I can just pull that thing up a little bit and thin up the belt. So we're getting it a bit thinner. It's looking better for this view. It's still not going to match up 100% for what we have for the drawing, but we're trying to, you know, get there as best as we possibly can. Now we can select this piece here, and we can move that thing up like that. And because we don't have all of the drawing under here, they've got this loincloth piece, we're going to have to kind of imagine where the crotch of our character falls. And I think it's going to be right about here, right where we have our manipulator right now. So let's select our verts. We'll take these and we'll move these things up like this. We'll take this part and we'll move that up as well. And so now we're getting closer to a shape that we can use like that. And let's just give this thing a name. So let's open up the outliner window, outliner. I'm going to pull this over onto this monitor here, and so this will be pants leg underscore L for left. And then remember, we can go ahead and take this left part and go edit, duplicate special with the option box, and we're going to do this as an instance with a negative scale in X, Y, and Z. So this is a negative scale in X. Hit apply, and now we've got this duplicated copy. So I want to get rid of the history on it. Alt-Shift-D will get rid of the history for me. And here we are. We're getting a little closer here. So now we can take this vert right in here. We can start to pull that thing in a bit and get the shape of the legs looking a little bit better here. And then also, if you notice from the front view, we've got our legs pushed out like this quite a bit. We'll push this up. That's getting us a little bit closer to what's going on in the drawing. These points need to come out quite a bit right here. And I think we're going to be pulling this in a bit and through here. Also, we have this part of our character is kind of pulling in, and then we've got this part for the pants. It looks like this needs to come out a bit more. So if I select both these objects, right click, get my vertex for this, I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and keep adding to this selection so I can select verts in both parts of the model. Now I could move all those verts together, but I'm going to turn on the soft selection, so I'll just tap B and then make the fall off. I'm going to hold down B and click and drag left or right, and I'm going to drag left to get a little bit smaller in through here. So I'm going to do something like this. So we're getting closer, I think, to that shape that we have here. So I'll tap F9 on my verts and then just drag this over a bit and maybe drag that in. I'll turn off the soft select by tapping B, and I think we're getting closer here. So now we're just going to check it in 3D, and I do think we can pull this thing a bit forward like this. And again, I know it's going to feel kind of weird that we're not following the concept drawing so super close, but we do have to kind of fill in the blanks in some of these areas. We just don't have enough information to make everything exactly the way that the drawing is like this. So we'll try to get the best that we can from the front and from the side, and then we'll have to kind of fill in the blanks again on some of that. So The size of the legs going around is quite big, so we'll just scale this thing in this way and try to get it lined up closer to where the boots are going to be showing correctly on that. And we can take these verts. It looks like, based off the drawing, that belt sticks out a little bit, and we want to give some space for maybe this loincloth to drop over the top of this thing here. So I'm just going to move in these points a little bit, and it looks like we can push this thing back this way a little bit, right through here. And I'm going to select this part of the leg, so I'll hit F10 and double click this edge to get the loop to where it comes right around here. I'll just keep adding that, holding down shift and double clicking on that gives me that whole loop like this. Now we'll go back to the side view, and we can move that ever so slightly, and it looks like it's getting pretty good to the shape of the drawings now. This does feel like it needs to come in a little bit more. So I think that's a pretty good start for the legs. So I'll just pull this in just a little bit, and then maybe try to take these points here and push them a little bit more to the front, because I want to make sure there's enough geometry here. See how this space of this geometry here, this space of this polygon, the size of it, needs to be roughly about the same size as here and here, and it feels like these points need to be pushed a little bit more like this. So we're working with the smooth mesh preview, and we did that by selecting the model and hitting 3. Now if we want to see it without the smooth mesh preview, we just need to tap 1, and now you can see kind of what we got going on here. Now this is not what I want, so basically I'm going to hit 3, and I want to turn this into real geometry. Right now it kind of works because we're working with fewer points and everything like that, but if I want to turn this into real geometry without the smooth mesh preview, let's get this last few points into place like this. I can tap F8 for this, and then we're going to go to modify and then say convert smooth mesh preview to polygons like that. Now that's going to give us quite a bit of geo to work with. Not quite what I want. That's too much, so we'll go to the smooth mesh preview thing here and take this divisions and put that to 1, and that's getting a bit closer to where we have everything that we need for geometry. And I'll go ahead and delete the history on that. So it's got this smooth on here. We'll hit Alt Shift D to delete history. And then now I might have too many edge loops to kind of go around through this thing. So if I hit F10, this is a handy tool. Like I could double click this and hit backspace, and that's fine. But if I hit F9, you can see I still have leftover verts, and I could select those and get rid of them. That's one way of doing it, but you see because I drug a marquee around this, and if I select that vert in the corner, I can accidentally delete that, and that would be bad. So you could be a bit more careful about what you do. You could delete it that way, or I'm going to hit undo and get us back to the point where we got this here. So I'll select F10. There's a way to select this whole loop and delete the whole thing out and have it automatically delete the verts for you. So if you hold down Control and right click while you have an edge selected, Control right click over the top of it and say to edge loop utilities, and then say to edge loop and delete, and that'll get rid of that loop for you. Now if you don't like the spacing of this, you can double click on this loop right here, and there is a slide edge tool. Let's find that thing. So we'll shift right click over the top of that after you have your edges selected, shift right click and say slide edge tool, and now you can middle mouse drag and you can set this thing where you want it to be. So I'm going to put it right about there in the center. So that works. So I'll tap F9 and I'll take this vert here and I'll move it down just a little bit right here. Same thing for this one. Get a little bit better control of the shape of that, like this. And I think that's looking fairly good. Okay, So we'll call that for the pants. Let's just go ahead and delete the history on that. And then we're going to go shading, flat shade all, and I'll turn on 7. I've got some lights set up on here as well. So we're getting just an idea of maybe some of the form for this thing. So we're getting closer, and that'll do it for this video. We'll come back and do the boots in the next video.